At this point, I want to invite Sam to give us an update on the testing toolkit. Sam?
Thank you, Steven. Thanks, Bruno and Chris. Welcome everyone to the presentation on the testing toolkit. So recently we were able to see how in the real world testing toolkit was able to help app developers and FSP related services get onboarded and extend Mojaloop use cases in real world. So we had the hackathon by DFS Lab last week, and it was we noticed it was extremely easy for people to understand Mojaloop and also carry on with their development of apps and value-added services on top of that. It was also easy as the facilitators and the infrastructure teams who were maintaining the services to spin up and run testing toolkit instances. So that was another positive thing to look at as well. So today we'll look at, we have 20 minutes, so we won't go into detail too much, but we'll look at some of the focus areas, high-level features for the toolkit, and quickly look at a couple of demonstrations and look at the future roadmap. Thank you. Vijay, next slide, please.
Can I take it from here, sir?
Vijay, go ahead. Yeah, take it from here, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vijay Kumar. I'm working for Modest Bugs as senior developer. I have been working on testing toolkit since beginning. So I'm going to discuss about some basics and then improvements we did in this period. So what is testing toolkit? It is a tool to test several APIs, various APIs. So we consider this as a multi-purpose tool, which is a Swiss Army knife, because we can use this testing toolkit in many ways. Like we can use this like for schemes onboarding or for DFSPs onboarding, and also we can use testing toolkit for demonstration purposes. I will cover this demonstration in the next demo. Then, of course, we can use this for validating APIs and QA. So I'm excited to show you a demo on the new feature of the testing toolkit, which is mobile simulator. To support onboarding team of the product council, we developed a new feature in the testing toolkit. With minimum effort, we could create a screen where we can simulate two mobile applications and send a transfer against a real Mojaloop switch. So let's have a look. So the screen you're seeing here is being served by the testing toolkit. We created this UI, and here the testing toolkit is simulating two DFSPs. You can find pink bank application and green bank application. These are the two DFSP applications. Pink bank is the payer application and green bank is a payee application. So testing toolkit is simulating both pink bank and green bank DFSPs and sending the transfer against a real Mojaloop switch. So yeah, coming to pink bank application, this is payer application. We need to enter the phone number here to which we want to send the money. If I click on the search button here, I would expect to get the information. I mean, I would expect my pink bank to pull the information of that phone number. Let's see what happens. So I got some information about the phone number. And here, pink bank sent a party lookup call to the Mojaloop switch, which is get parties. And then Mojaloop switch did some Oracle lookup and then got the information from the green bank and sent a call back to the pink bank. Once again, here we are just simulating the DFSP side functionality, and every request is going through the real Mojaloop switch here. So yeah, coming back to pink bank app, we got the information of the party, and we can enter the amount here, and then click on Get Quote. Then the quotes phase. We got the payer fees and commission here. Of course, this is up to the bank, DFSP, to show to the user or not. But if the user agrees with this, then he can click on Proceed. Then the actual transfer happens. This is the transfer phase. When the green bank DFSP gets the inbound transfers, then it will notify the its user with the receiving amount. So we could send a complete P2P transfer with the testing toolkit against the Mojaloop switch. With minimum effort, we could create this phase, leveraging the existing functionality of the testing toolkit. And also we can see the logs here. These are the pink bank logs. We can see all the inbound and outbound requests, timely logs, and also we can see the message content. Same with the green band. These are the logs with respect to the green band. So this is about mobile simulator. And then, yeah, over to you, Sam.
So where does the toolkit fit? So as we saw, the toolkit is pretty versatile, but to keep it simple, we'll cover 3 scenarios today. So the first one is, I think, the most used scenario where we have the, Vijay, can you go to the next slide, please? Where we have the testing toolkit simulating a pair FSP. So what you see here is the default Mojaloop architecture that is there at our sort of home page of Mojaloop technical documentation. And we see the payer FSP on one side and the payee FSP and a Mojaloop switch. So the first scenario where the toolkit simulates a payer FSP is one that is extensively used. So for example, if you want to test a switch implementation, so right now we have exhaustive or comprehensive test suites for hub testing. So these we initiate from a payer FSP scenario. So we also have QA teams using it for regression testing, monitoring and debugging. Infrastructure teams, when they deploy a Mojaloop switch initially, they can automate in a way that the toolkit will automatically get all the default test cases that are available on GitHub and then run them against a Mojaloop switch. So the results can be published to Amazon S3 or whatever is integrated with it, and then quickly send a Slack notification. We actually use this on the core team. So once I deploy a Mojaloop installation, I know whether it succeeded or not by just looking at the Slack notification and the result page from there. Business and product users can use it for exploration and monitoring as well. The second scenario we can use is as a payee FSP, where it acts as an inbound entity and then responds to the requests that come. So developers can use this as they develop FSP implementations or switch services, and it can also be used for onboarding, validating, and even as a simulator. The third one is as the hub scenario. So we saw the same case with the GSMA ITP as well. So in a similar manner, it works differently, but we can have the same outcome. So we can use this for simulating a Mojaloop switch altogether. For example, in development scenarios, if I'm a developer or some of the team members like PSP team or ISO teams, they showed it in our previous convening, that you don't have to deploy a Mojaloop switch on your development box. You can just run the testing toolkit as a local service, and you can have like a functional switch there, which can simulate working so that you can work on your services and focus on that. It's very lightweight and easy to deploy. And if, let's say there is a payer, there is an FSP implementation who wants to test its functionality without going to the cloud or without going anywhere else on the internet, they can just run this and configure in a way that they can run both their payer and payee FSP implementations against it. And there's a hosted mode as well, where schemes can host it and ask the FSPs to certify themselves against that. Primarily, we also use it for debugging, monitoring, and see how the messages are incoming and outgoing. We then go into the deployment modes. Vijay, yeah, you can touch on how the deployment can be done.
Thanks, Sam. So I'm going to discuss various ways of deployment of the testing toolkit. So the first and easiest mode is local deployment. If you have Git and Docker, you can directly download the testing toolkit and Docker Composer. That's it. It will up the testing toolkit, and you can get the interface on your browser. And also, it can be run with Node. Node, and we have some plans to distribute that in like native desktop application. We will build the Node.js application into binary files, and we will distribute that for the various platforms like macOS, Windows, and Linux. This is on the roadmap. So the second mode is through the Helm chart as part of the Mojaloop. As you know, the Mojaloop version 11.0.0 contains testing toolkit by default. So if you install the Mojaloop, you will get the testing toolkit service. And also you can specify some post-install hooks if you want to run the some test suites like provisioning or onboarding or any regression tests. If you want those test suites automatically run after the deployment, then you can use this command. You can use these configuration variables with the Helm install command. The third mode is hosted service. Teams can use the Helm chart of the testing toolkit and deploy that in their cluster, in their environment, so that they can provide access to their DFSPs. Then their DFSPs can log into the testing toolkit hosted instance using their credentials, and they can play with the API. They can, and also they can validate their implementation. So it comes with MCM, MongoDB, and KeyCloak for authentication and certificates exchange. Okay, then coming to enhancements in this PI. Our objective for this PI is to create comprehensive test suites. To provide good coverage as much as the Postman Golden Path collection. So we added several test suites for the hub implementation based on the Postman Golden Path. Yeah, we achieved as much coverage as of Postman, and also more than that. In the Postman OSS collection, there is no validation, JWS validation. We are just validating the protected headers. There is no JWS validation with a public key of the DFSP, but we added that feature here. And we have good coverage for FSP implementations, both positive and negative scenarios. And we did several enhancements in the functionality. We added iterations. If we want to execute a test case for several times, then we can do that. And also we added some functions to connect to the WebSocket and make payee side assertions for the JWS functionality and all. And the next main feature is uploading new API. So we can upload, we can provision a new API into the testing toolkit through the web UI now. We can just drag our Swagger file there. Then the testing toolkit will run with that API. We can initiate calls as well as it can take inbound requests for that API. So let's look at the demos. You can find the test suites at this link. We created a new repository in the Mojaloop, which is testing toolkit test cases. So you can find test cases related to Hub and DFSP there. Okay, let's see the demo. Okay, first I will run the DFSP collection. I will show the DFSP collection. So this is the DFSP collection on the left-hand side here. You can see several folders. We added some tests for provisioning. So this is specific to Mojaloop simulator. If we want to provision the party automatically, then we can run this test case. And the golden path, it covers negative and positive scenarios. So I'm going to run this golden path. You can see I'm running a scheme adapter and Mojaloop simulator on my machine, which are acting like a DFSP implementation. So this is the Docker service. Let's run this collection. You can see the fastness of the test. So there are 564 tests and we got 529 passed and 32 failed, and we can download a report, HTML report. This is the format of the report. This is the summary page, and we can see the details of every request sent with headers and body. Every detail is here. Okay, so next, let's load a P2P test case. So if I want to run this test case for several times, and if I want to get the average response time, average test run, then you can find a new button here, iteration runner. Here we can specify the number of iterations and start the execution. It will execute the test case that many times, and it will provide the reports for each iteration. And also we can see the average runtime here. This is 296 milliseconds against my local Mojaloop simulator for complete P2P transfer, get parties, quotes, and transfers. So yeah, let's look at the hub collection. This is a hub collection. You can find similar structure as in Postman. So there are feature tests, P2P transfer, negative scenarios, duplicate handling, and all. Let's see the P2P here. Okay, so we added WebSocket functionality to the testing toolkit. Here we can find WebSocket.connect. We can connect to the WebSocket server of the SDK scheme adapter, and we can make payee-side assertions by leveraging the WebSocket functionality of the scheme adapter. So we don't have to wait for some time, like in Postman, and get the payee-side data. We can just connect to the WebSocket. As soon as it gets the data, we can make assertions on that. So load this. So you can find JWS related functions. If we want to sign a particular request with a particular key, then we can use this function jws.signRequest, and also there are functions for validation. This is the function for validating only protected headers, which we are doing in the Postman, and this is the function for validating the signature with the key, public key of the DFSP. Then the next feature is API management here. So through this page, we can see all the APIs provisioned in the testing toolkit, and also we can add a new API using this function. So we can select a file, Swagger file here, then it will be provisioned into the testing toolkit. Then we can start making calls with that API. And also we can see documentation. It will dynamically create the documentation about that API. So yeah, that is it about the demos. If you have any questions regarding deployment methods and the new features, you can post the questions in the Discord link due to the time limitation. And over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Vijay. So we'd like to thank many contributors this PI for Matt and Miller and Michael on the product side and helping us with the roadmap. We had contributions from Matt Kingston and Emerson and Stephen as well. So thank you, team, for that. On the roadmap, so we received a request on being able to validate a switch while the TTK is deployed outside. So we'll do that infrastructure tweak to support that. Apart from that, we also want to do a testing toolkit module working with the Mojaloop training program team and work stream there to make sure that all the guides and videos are ported over there. Apart from that, we also want to make it more generic so that it can be used for any API, especially with async APIs, which are a little bit more complicated than more normal synchronous APIs. Again, as we touched elsewhere, we want to make it easy to have like a single click deployment. So we'll make that happen soon as well. Thank you. So yeah, so Kim, just quickly addressing that. So we now have the PISP teams using it for contract tests, for simulation, and I think to some extent demonstration as well. The core team is using it for switch validation, and we have the applied payments and coil teams using it for the ISO adapter testing and development as well. Thanks, Adrian.
Awesome. I see Adrian. Sam, do you want to wrap up?
Thanks, Adrian. Vijay, thank you. We'll follow the questions on discourse or chat. Thank you very much for your support. Actually, there are many advocates who, understanding the capabilities of the toolkit, have advocated for the toolkit. So thank you so much for everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vijay and Sam.